Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Coffee Club. We created this club to provide a safe space for women to share and inspire each other. So grateful this morning to have Jennifer. I don't know how to spell your last name, Jennifer. Asidao-Querubin. Is that how
Oh,
you say
that's good, Rennie. Wow, that's really
it?
good. Usually people butcher that big time.
Love,
Wow.
love your topic this morning. Manifestation breakthrough, transform patterns within. We all have pattern in our lives. So excited to hear this. So Jennifer, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and why you decided to choose this topic. Please, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Yes,
Morning.
I'm Jennifer. I'm just based right outside of Chicago, Illinois, in the US. I was a nurse for about 20 years, and that was a profession that really pushed my limits a lot, like mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I passed the boards immediately. I was always very good at academics, tested very well. And I found myself in a nursing profession, which was actually a decision based out of trauma. And you'll hear I am a trauma-informed manifestation and mindset coach. So in being in that profession, I immediately was working with cancer patients. And I feel that, I was like 20 years old. I saw a lot of things that made me grow up very, very fast. And I coped with a lot of things with what I saw, as best as I could, but I was really looking for a way out. I was looking for a more genuine expression of who I really am, who I truly, truly am. And one day, my girlfriend asked me to come over to her apartment, and she showed me this, you would call it like third-party material about the life of an entrepreneur. And I remember watching it with all like my white scrubs on, because that's what we wear in nursing is these scrubs. And I was on my way to do like a 3 to 11 or a 3 to 8 a.m., 3 in the afternoon to probably a 16-hour shift to work until the next morning, later on that day. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it talked about entrepreneurs owning their time and, there's no limit, there's creativity. And something clicked in my head. I'm like, that's what I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be an entrepreneur. And I was in the habit of being something that was expected of me. And there's something in my spirit as well, like being in a nursing world, like when you see, patients that are, they're consuming a lot of pharmaceuticals. That's the paradigm, right, of healing, of working with or dealing with sickness. And there was something in my spirit that was like, this is not working. Like, so people are like really sick, you give them a medication, and then there's sort of side effects of the medication. You give them more medication to deal with the side effects. And it was kind of like this insanity of, this runaround of just managing symptoms. And I wanted to help people in a deeper way. So I would literally pray. And I'm like, I need a new model. I need to understand like what is it that I can move into, which was kind of like very much a part of this conversation. We find ourselves in energetic loops because we don't know what to like flow into as an alternative or as a new model like in our life. Does that make sense? So I found myself stuck, stuck in, I mean, everyone saw, oh, if you're a healthcare professional, at least in my world, that's very successful and et cetera, et cetera. So I attracted to myself um, mentors that were like seven-figure earners. They saw that I had the desire to build a business. And the very first like blind spot for me, and I'm wondering if the women here can relate to this, is I would study a lot of really good material, but my actual actions in business building were lacking. So my husband brought it up to me. My husband was like, it's great that you're investing all this time and this money into like learning about business, but why aren't you actually implementing it? So, and I'm like, whoa, like I didn't know, I didn't have a comeback. Like I opened up my mouth and literally nothing came out of my mouth because the blind spot was so glaring at that moment. And I'm like, and I just remember thinking, okay, there's something about myself that I don't understand. That's it. Like there's something in my that I don't understand about myself, and that somehow I would find out what it is. What it was is the subconscious mind, right? So when I started learning about the subconscious mind, there was a pivotal point. I would implement what Bob Proctor would teach, which is how to recondition and reprogram the subconscious mind. But there was something in my spirit, Rennie and women here, that was not settling yet. I felt something was off, right? So I continued with my business building activities. I would network with people all over the world. And I came across this lovely soul, and I'm sorry if I'm being long-winded, but I want to just give this kind of context of my talk here. I came across this lovely soul based in Los Angeles, and he offered to give me a complimentary guided meditation. And I knew immediately, I'm like, yes, I want to take it. I want to take you up on your offer. And we took me through this meditation. This is what happened. I saw a very angry little girl that almost looked like a shadow over her. And instead of like rejecting what I was seeing, because it was actually kind of scary, I just sat with it. And it turns out that it was a very wounded part of a hidden part of my personality that I had to address and reintegrate back into me. And that's very much related to trauma. So later on, fast track a few years, I would come across the right instructors to help me understand how to clear trauma from the unconscious mind and the subconscious mind. And I'm touching lightly on it in today's talk, but essentially that's what brought me to into understanding like trauma informed manifestation and mindset, and also soul level manifestation and mindset coaching. So why did I choose the subject? I chose it because I feel like there are nuances to our journey that I think that this exercise that we're going to do is going to help people here who are watching live or later on. So that's why, and it was helpful for me.
That's awesome. Wow. It's interesting to find out how you end up getting to where you are today and why you wanted to do this. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Jennifer, with your presentation and just make sure that you allow about 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. Thank you again.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to welcome everyone here. Getting right into it, what I really wanted to cover in today's session together is we're going to do an exercise together. The first, for expectations, want to say that we will cover, you're going to experience a distinction between what we typically know as mental manifestation versus soul manifestation in today's presentation, and also understanding energetic loops and what is to be done. Like, it's really good to know about what the problem is, to have light about the problem, but what can I do about it? That's the most important thing. And then we'll have questions, okay? So just a little bit, as I already went into a little bit of my story, but throughout my life, I'm sure everyone here has manifested cool stuff, right? Like one of my most favorite manifestation stories is when I hopped on a plane in New York City with my girlfriend, because my girlfriend calls me up one day and she's like, my sister ran away. And she just notified my family that she ran away to New York City. Can you go with me? And I'm like, oh my God, I was in school, I was, studying, and I was working. I was just too busy. I was also involved in a lot of community work at the time, and I was rejecting the idea. But my mom was the one that said, Jen, go have fun, go to New York City, like just have fun, be young, right? And thank God that I did, because on the way back from New York City to Chicago at a connecting flight in Ohio is where I met my husband.
Oh,
We sat right next to each other on the plane. And so I manifested my husband. I manifested it on a freaking plane ride. And it's so funny because I didn't even want to talk to him. It was the worst time for me to even meet him, and worst time for him to meet someone new. But the flight attendant got our orders wrong. So it forced us to look at each other and talk to each other to sort out the situation. And other things I would manifest, I manifested, my girlfriend said, oh, you met your Prince Charming early on. I also manifested like mentors, when there were times I needed money, like cash would just be gifted, to me. Anytime I needed assistance, I've manifested. I grew up with a mindset like if you want to make more money, you just work more hours, right? Like that, you're trading your time, your hours for money. And then as I shifted my mindset, and I'll show you a little bit more about how that happened. I was able to, let's say one day make like, 5 figures in sales, and then like 1 month would be equivalent to about 10 months of salary in nursing, right? And I put down here the blessings in disguise because how many here, we're going to go over this, is how many here have noticed like persisting patterns, even though like I can do what I've been taught, like be grateful, visualize and affirm what it is that I want, right? That's what we're going to hit today. And I realized that just like when I told you about having that guided meditation gifted to me, that was a blessing in disguise, because my body and my spirit was unsettled, but at the same time, it led me to such a beautiful line of work now that I do as an expression of being a coach and a trainer for others. So the holding pattern you may be experiencing right now is because, number one, you're going to break through and your soul is learning to evolve. That's really what this is all about. Your soul is ready to evolve. So what is the definition of manifestation? Who can tell me? What's a good definition of manifestation?
realizing what you want.
Oh,
Realizing what you want. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
yeah,
Attracting
bringing your
out of
vision.
the blue. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say things falling on your lap out of the blue without any
Ooh.
expectations.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like an alignment. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Jessica? Yep. Thank you, Vincent.
Moving along, moving your vision, or your vision into the 3D world.
Yeah, yeah, that's I love that. Realizing what you want, and moving from the invisible basically to the visible. So the skill of making the invisible visible, right? Like from the quantum, which is pure energy, and then now it collapses into matter, into like the visible. Really cool. So what do you implement as part of your manifestation practice? What do you implement? Some people will say, I just go after it, and that's great. Yes, we can definitely get very masculine and just, hustle and make it happen. Any other manifestation practices here? Yes.
I can say what happened with me.
Yeah.
I live in Chile right now, but when we were living in the United States, we had a property that we were trying to sell for 4 years. And we had 2 different real estate agents. Nobody came, even during COVID when things were getting snapped up here and there. We lived in Vermont. And I spent weeks writing out. I envisioned the feeling of my husband, the warmth of my husband's arm next to mine. I could hear the scratching of the paper as we signed the documents, the sale documents. I imagined the person across from me smiling because they were excited that they were going to receive the property. And I did this for several weeks, well, quite a few weeks. And it happened like, boom. you know, a guy showed up.
Mhm.
He was jumping up and down. He was so excited. He offered us cash. Boom, everything happened very fast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful.
So
So
I wrote
visualization.
about it, and yeah, I wrote about it,
Yes,
but I tried to incorporate as many senses into my envisioning that I could. You know, what
absolutely.
the sound of the pen scratching on the paper, the feeling of the warmth of my husband's arm right next to mine, the joy that we would all be feeling, and excitement at the transfer of the property. Yeah, it was great.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, yeah. And you collapse at the time frames too. Yeah, fourth dimensional work. Excellent, excellent. If for some reason it is not quite working, right? Like for some reason, let's say I am affirming and I'm visualizing, but it's not yet working for me. I want you to just give yourself permission, because it's good to look at the wins, absolutely. And at the same time, this is a little bit my pet peeve in the personal development world, where we have to also give ourselves permission to look at what is not feeling the greatest also. You know, what is the cause, what is like the manifestation, let's say, of a frustration or a trigger. It's a very important part of our evolution, as a part of our growth as well. There's a lot to be learned from it. So what persistent patterns have you been experiencing?
I would say limiting beliefs, because you have this like a thermostat where you have a set
Yeah,
point, that when you reach that point, you
right.
sabotage and you just kind of like
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to
leave that.
map out that self-sabotage a little bit. Very interesting, Rennie. Anyone else have a persistent pattern? Now, it could be, I was thinking of, let's look at the business aspect, because all of us here are women in business. I believe so, but it doesn't have to be. It could be like, it could be, I'm coming across the same people, you know what I mean? In terms of like, I don't know, maybe my friendships or my colleagues, or I'm coming across the same situation when it comes to, let's say, the opposite sex, or I'm coming across the same situation in some aspect of life. So what pattern are you experiencing? You could also encourage you to look at it from like a business perspective, right? And what is the feeling? How does it feel to have an unwanted pattern persist? Do we give ourselves permission to be fully embodied and to really acknowledge what we feel? Really acknowledge what we feel. I shared on social media, I had a very profound experience. I know I want to be very cognizant of the time. I had a very profound experience where I went rock climbing about a month ago. And scaling up this rock face, I was so aware. Like I have the strength, I've always been physically fit, but I had a really hard time getting over one part of the rock face. And I had to sit, you know, stay there for a little bit and say, what is this really about? And I realized I had so much fear of falling, and I was attached to ropes, don't get me wrong, you know. So, and I have people like holding me, you know, with the rope. So what is it? And I realized I was able to sit with my fear. That was it. So how does it feel? And once I was able to sit with my fear, I was like, okay, now I can make a real decision and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I was ready to give up several times in that rock climbing expedition or, you know, experience. And then finally I did it. I was able to overcome it and I scaled that rock face. How does it feel to have an unwanted pattern persist in your life? Just sit with it here, because if we don't acknowledge it, we lose the opportunity for the breakthrough. We miss the boat. We miss the boat. Okay. So let's get to the drawing board. Sometimes, well, a lot of times, we can come across something called an energetic loop in our life. So let this represent an energetic loop. And being very present in today's gathering today, together here. Let's look at what is a reoccurring, I hope I'm spelling that correctly, resistance that I am experiencing. In other words, there is a reoccurring theme that I am experiencing. Right? Or it's anything I feel stuck on. This is the energetic loop. And what I like to have my clients, when I work with them one-on-one, to do is symbolically create like these arrows from the outside, right? It's like, this is happening. This is happening. So it's very objective. We don't even have to judge it. It's happening that I'm coming across, let's say, clients that are complaining or whatever, or I'm coming across just feeling like low energy in certain situations. So in other words, what are the triggers I'm experiencing? Something is activating my nervous system. I remember there was a woman who was speaking about emotional intelligence previously, yes? So in honing in with our emotional intelligence, what has been triggering me? In other words, when my nervous system is activated, when am I feeling like maybe frustration or aggression or a fight response? When am I being triggered to feel like I just run away or a flight response? Or when am I being triggered where I just kind of zone out and I freeze? A freeze response. Sometimes we can freeze or we can run away by just zoning out and scrolling on social media, right? Or we procrastinate, right? The fight response could be something like, I'm just feeling frustrated or angry. Okay, or part of a survival mechanism is people pleasing. In other words, what am I experiencing? Let's look at it objectively. I have reoccurring challenges come up. It's reoccurring challenges. Maybe I'm constantly feeling overwhelmed. Or cash flow can be an issue. Or there's something disappointing that I keep on experiencing. A disappointing occurrence that keeps on happening. But we tend to think, well, it's just happening. Well, what I'm here to tell you is we're going to look deeper into this because unconsciously you are manifesting it, unconsciously. It's almost beyond subconscious, to tell you frankly. It's really more unconscious. It's really deep in the download, right? Or what keeps on happening that's very uncomfortable? Sit with it. Let's have a come to Jesus, Buddha, Allah, source energy moment here, right? What is objectively happening without judgment? Because sometimes we can feel guilty for not everything working out great. Seriously, right? And then when the triggers happen, what do I do? So from within the circle, you can create an arrow going outward. So this is happening to me, and this is how I typically, but it takes mindfulness. It takes mindfulness. This is what I do. So when I'm triggered, let's say, oh, I want to, I get off my diet. Let's say that. I'm triggered, so therefore I just want to hit the ice cream. Okay. Or I'm feeling really uncomfortable. So, you know, instead of like doing what I need to do because I'm just so uncomfortable, I'm just going to go ahead and talk to my girlfriend and gossip. Whatever it may be. These are just all examples. Oh man, I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. So what I'm going to do, what I usually do if I'm just so disappointed is, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and shop online. Is this registering for anyone here? Can I get like a,
Yes.
yeah, okay. Or if challenges, if
Yes.
challenges happen, yes, okay. If challenges happen, then what I'm going to do here, I know this is getting like really, but I just wanted to illustrate this. Challenges happen, then I just really berate myself in my head. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We want to be clear on our patterns. We want to be very clear on our patterns. Now, from here, we can take a step back objectively. It's almost like you're looking at things from, you know how we can be in situations, we can look at it from like the first or second level of like, you know, but then what we're doing here is we're getting to the 95th level of the building, 100th level of the building. And now we can see farther. Our perception is different. And here's the key question. The key question is, who am I being in these situations? We can come up with any name, you know. I was processing this with a client, and it, you know, because listen, life is complex, guys. Ladies, life is complex, okay? So we can look at patterns where it's like, okay, who am I being in this marriage? It's also showing up in my business, right? And imagine the other layers of this is, well, I'm also in business with my husband. Just, you know what I mean? So we need to step back and like really look at this objectively, okay? So who am I being in this situation? When I did this, when it came to a money situation I kept on coming across personally, I realized, oh, I'm the damsel in distress. That was the label I gave myself. I am the damsel in distress in this situation. So who are you in this situation? Because what we're looking at is we're looking at unconscious archetypes. I am a living being that I am taking on, you know, in my level of awareness at this time. So we want to come to light about what archetype am I being at this time. So let me, if I may, I'm going to go ahead, show this a little bit here, okay? So we have different archetypes. We have different archetypes. Like, let's say the lover, who's all about passion, right? Or the tired archetype, where they just can't feel the, you know, the motivation, you know, they just feel like drained all the time. Or the prophet or oracle. I have an asterisk for a reason. I'll explain that a little bit later on, where the prophet is consciously predicting what's going to happen. Or the judge, who's always seeking justice, right? The defensive person, who doesn't like to hear criticism. Like, who am I? Who am I in this situation? Or the rebel and the outlaw, right? Or the fighter, Again, because remember I talked about the nervous system. Like, am I consistently feeling like I'm always fighting the situation? Am I the fighter in this situation? Am I the person that is not really committed? So I tend to want to like run away from things. A client yesterday just admitted this to me. She goes, Jen, I'm signing the client agreement now. We've been working with each other already, but I'm going to sign the client agreement. You know what I mean? Because that for her, that's a level of commitment now that she's going to sign that client agreement now, right? Or am I being the people pleaser? Am I being the dictator? You see what I'm saying? Who am I being in this situation? When I did this exercise for myself, you'll notice when you look back at your life. Like when I look back at my 20s, I was a nurse, yeah, but I was also the rebel and the outlaw. I was also a social justice activist at the same time. That's a certain pattern, that's a certain archetype, that's a certain identity, right? What other archetypes are there? I'm just expressing this so they can stimulate your thinking here. Have you been carrying on that you're just the everyday woman? Or you're the caregiver and the savior of others? Or you're always as a coping mechanism, you're always joking, you know, or making light of a situation. You're the joker. That's your archetype. Or the victim all the time, where you're giving away your power. Or helpless. Or the intellectual who overthinks things, right? As a nurse, and I was a nurse for 20 years, I realized when I look back, I was like, wow, I have been the average everyday woman. I really felt that way. You don't stand out. For me, in my experience, I didn't stand out at all. I didn't allow myself to stand out. I would just wear my scrubs, go to work my ass off, rinse and repeat. I was definitely the caregiver. I was always saving other people. It wasn't just in the hospital. It was in my family. It was in my marriage, you see? So these are unconscious patterns because we're living a certain archetype. Now, it's a certain karmic pattern as well. Now, how do we actually get out of these patterns? That's very valuable to understand. How do we? Now, what actually keeps the pattern persisting is our reactions to it, to what we're experiencing. It's a reaction. It's, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. Something's going on maybe with cash flow. And then the pattern is I go into like fight mode and let me just hustle, or let me again, all of these triggers, these survival responses, or maybe I'm going to freeze, okay, or people please. So the more we keep on resisting the situation, the more the pattern will actually keep on persisting itself. So how do we get out of this? We get out of it by slipping. We slip out of the energetic loop. We don't have to get frustrated anymore or have to do more to get out of it, have to learn more to get out of it. That's not it. But what is required is, what is my new archetype? What is my new identity? Because in this archetype, obviously, it is not working. Does this make sense? Who I'm being in this situation is not working, okay? And there are key questions to ask. Being in this energetic pattern, what am I saying no to that would actually serve me? But I'm saying no to it because I'm in this identity, I'm in this archetype. Like it could be like saying no to certain activities. Like if we're in a people-pleasing archetype or caregiving archetype, It could be that there's a lack of boundaries, right? Energetic boundaries in terms of time, even prioritizing oneself. Other people come first before that person. And I'm saying no to that. I'm saying no to the boundaries. I'm saying no to making myself first, even though it would serve me. So this is the main question is, what am I saying no to that would actually serve me? And what am I saying yes to that no longer serves me? What am I saying yes to that no longer serves me? Anyone have any insight here? Any ahas, any realizations?
Let me call out. Lachelle, go ahead.
It's interesting because the boundaries stuff, and something that popped up for me is I am doing so much right now building my business. I have a job, and one of the things that's not serving me is I'm not making time for myself for exercise, and so I've been really working on that lately. So when you asked that question, that was what popped into my head immediately.
Yeah. It's interesting. And what I've come to realize is when we start really making those decisions for ourselves, like this is what's right for me, and we like claim our power with that, we command more money. We actually attract more money into our lives. It's very interesting how that
And
happens as well.
Look at the
Oh.
card that I pulled yesterday, setting boundaries.
Ah,
That's funny.
very
Wow.
cool, very cool. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, Lachelle. Of course, we all have that same kind of problem boundary, right?
Mhm.
I'm seeing Tamara. You wanted to say something?
This is great. Thank you. I was looking at all of the different archetypes. I'm like, well, I got that one and that one and that one and that one and
Yeah.
like multiple. But
Yeah.
So where you're asking right now, what am I saying yes to that no longer serves me? That one's harder. What I'm saying no to that actually would serve me is I'm saying no because I'm building a coaching business as well, and I also have a job, and I'm doing all of these trainings and learning more and more and more, and I'm keeping on going because I guess I just don't feel like I know enough.
Right.
And I think that underlying to that is that I'm afraid I'm gonna mess somebody up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what am I saying yes to that no longer serves me? I just went through the whole thing 3 days now for the freezing, the wanting to just be like away from everybody and just try to get my brain back in order. So it's funny because every time I come on here, Brittany, you've got the perfect people for me. It's like the universe is coming up and saying, here you go.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in slipping out of these energetic loops, we come to a level of awareness of like, okay, so this is my pattern. It's very unconscious, right? Some of these patterns were created when we were children. It's not even, because I chose this career or whatever. This pattern may have been established when a trauma happened, any time in life, right? Now, the good news is when we come to light about it, this is definitely when I was in the victim and helpless pattern. This is when I first met Bob. And then later on, this is the two main questions. What am I saying no to that would serve me? But what am I saying yes to that no longer serves me? Okay. Now we can choose a different archetype. And I would recommend, like, if you have your goal in mind, my goal in my coaching business, my goal in my relationships, my goal in, you know, my spirituality or whatnot, then we can choose differently. Now we're empowered. You know, there are different archetypes like the hero. Although I have to give a little bit of a, I love the idea of the hero. I love like superhero movies and all that stuff. The thing is, though, when we choose the hero archetype, then what we're saying yes to is give me all of the like crazy challenges because I'm going to overcome them, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, well, it comes with the territory. Okay. Well, when we're the magician, it means I am very much tuned with the universal laws. And I create magic based on the universal laws, right? As an explorer, I'm willing to go into uncharted territory in my life. So maybe I'm going to be the explorer now, as in my new archetype. And definitely in the coaching, I highly recommend, in the training world, mentorship world, is I am now the sage. I am the mentor. I am the guide for others. Could be the artist, the creator, right? Like, I'm going to give myself permission to be fully creative in this area of my life now. This is my new archetype. And that's what I needed to do. When I moved out of nursing, as scary as it was, I was already working on my mindset. I was really the explorer, really. I remember giving my 2-week notice. And then I bought lunch for the whole staff on my last day of work because I wanted to leave on a beautiful note. And I just went out there without any perfection, you know, to do it. Without. I remember going to the closet. Remember, all my life was scrubs. So I would go into my closet. What's the most professional outfit that I could even muster and put together? You know, I had to learn to put on makeup. I mean, ladies, like, seriously. You know, and then what are the networking events around my area? Like, where can I go and network with people? And I went to Office Depot and I bought just those cards that you put in your printer to just, you know, make makeshift business cards. So I was the explorer. I was going into the unknown. I was also the magician. I still am the magician because I create based on the universal laws, right? And I am the archetype of being the sage, the wise one, the mentor, the guide. You see? So now when we realize, who am I? What is my archetype now? We ask the same questions. What does, let's say someone says, I am now the magician. This is my new archetype. So the question is now, what does the magician say yes to? What does the magician now say no to? Make sense? Give me a 5 if it makes sense. Give me a 5 in the chat if it makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So that's how we slip out of these energetic patterns. Really quickly now, I just want to say, I know for sake of time, so the soul versus mental manifestation is this. You're being called to go deeper within and evolve your soul. This is why patterns keep on persisting. That's why it's a blessing in disguise. And then in the energetic aspect, this is a practice of shifting consciousness and deepening your understanding of the 4th dimension, right? We know ourselves as 3rd dimensional beings, but then we're really cultivating our skill and working with the 4th dimension, where all time exists now. And then there's the work. You take a deeper look at identity because you are the center of it all, right? And you're consciously changing your archetype. You're tweaking it and calibrating your nervous system. We actually have 3, I teach this, we have 3 thinking centers. It's not just the mental body. It's also our emotional body. And also our soma itself, our physical bodies itself is a thinking center. So we have to recalibrate the nervous system. It's very important to do that. And at the end, I just wanted to mention, I do have a masterclass on August 22nd. I want to invite everyone here, and I want to thank you for this time, for sharing this information with you. So I want to thank everyone. That's it. I think we have time for some Q&A. And I think in the chat, I'll just put down the link for the masterclass, which is on August 22nd. If anyone would love to find out more about quantum leaping, I can help you with that as well.
Jen, this is so awesome. I love your presentation. This is really
Thank
great
you.
information. And you can post your masterclass information in the chat, in the Women Coffee Club chat also.
Thank
So
you.
everyone, including those that couldn't attend, could see your link and could, you know, register for that. But I love this presentation. This is so awesome, so good. Let's open it up. Let's start with Jessica. Jessica, your thoughts and comment.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this has been great. That recalibrating your nervous system is really great way to phrase something that I do also with my clients, is help them recalibrate their nervous system. So that is really helpful. And what I realized when you were talking about the magician and the creator, I feel like that's where I have just moved, you know, over the last couple of years, moved into that mode. Right now, we need to manifest somebody to help us build our house on our property. And I definitely am going to use these techniques to manifest that, to be the magician and the creator that will make that happen.
Nice.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Beautiful. You're welcome.
I love about this identity thing. So true, because who we think we are, you know, which is kind of scary. Because sometimes we underestimate ourselves more than not. So, hi, Ezra. Are you able to show up on camera? Nice meeting you. I've been talking to Ezra, and hopefully I get to meet her in person.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice meeting
What do
you.
you think about this presentation, Ezra?
Well, I don't want to be too controversial because I'm a brand consultant. So I don't happen to believe the archetypes just because of my own line of work. But I will say it is a technique to, you know, tap into that potential. As you were speaking, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Queen is actually one of the archetypes as well. So
Yeah.
so I was just sort of thinking about that a little bit. And as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I think that would be a mode I would slip into, to use your terminology, you know, to slip into that potential of who I could become. And also the question of what serves me and what doesn't serve me, you know. I think that's definitely a helpful framework to think about, because for me as a brand consultant, it is about identity, 100%, 100%. So I definitely resonated with that. I don't know if it's the rebel in me that doesn't like to be typed, but
Yeah,
it does. It's a spark, you know, it's a spark to unleash some of that potential within us, the parts of ourselves we haven't manifested yet. So I think that was really interesting and really helpful and well presented.
The archetypes are really limitless. Yeah, those are just some examples, but you can come up with any archetype, any that comes to the imagination is limitless. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Ezra.
Thank you, Ezra. Omeka is a caregiver. I don't know what identity you give yourself.
Yeah, right. That's that always comes up for me. So yeah, giving to myself more. I sit here all day long and sit with my mother and watch TV or give her snacks, and I'm like, okay, what? And then I have this list of things that I want to do for myself, and it's like, okay, So I feel like I have to, there's no one else here. So I have to keep her company. I don't want to just turn the TV on and leave. Well, she might start walking around. I got to kind of watch her. And so it's a balance and a challenge. And my mind is saying, no, you got to sit here. You can't go and get on the computer in the other room. No, you can't go exercise because what if you, no, you didn't do it before she woke up. So you can't, I'm like, okay, so stopping myself from saying those things and making, kind of a schedule or something. There's other solutions. So what's been triggering for me is anger and frustration and like old childhood things my mother used to say to me. Shut up, go to your room. I'm saying it to her now. I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
This is deep. So obviously I was saying it to myself the whole time, but now that she's, I'm not gonna say helpless because she does what she wants when she wants to, but I'm not really trying to figure out, okay, does she really not know what I'm saying? Most of the time she doesn't. But I saw you just put your pants on by yourself, the other day. Like all of a sudden you don't know how to lift your leg. I gotta lift your leg. I'm like, okay. So we're getting to see these patterns that are not necessarily so healthy. Of her relying.
Right.
It's just a lot. And so I feel like I will journal after this because so many things came up. So I feel like I'm the musician archetype, and I manifested some drums and instruments from my roommate that just came back from Africa, and I manifested this amazing garden with one little sprout that I trusted. I didn't even know what it was, and I planted it, and it turned into 20 butternut squash.
Yeah.
And so my creativity is coming out in the garden. So I want to give myself permission to be musically as creative as I really love to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff came up, but thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the key is like, okay, so because both, mom and myself are playing into the situation, right? So, and there's actually another layer to this where there's unresolved energy.
Yeah.
In
And then
terms of like what you yeah.
And then it manifests into me thinking I'm running out of money.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because I'm not, because it's a thought. That's my thought. But other than that, I'm not doing me. I'm not living for me. I'm living for her. And so I'm not allowing my creativity to flow in a way that I can even exchange something. I can go and sell the squash. You know what I'm saying? But
You're feeling stuck, Omeka, sounds to me.
I'm not. Say again.
Rennie, go ahead. What is it you said, Rennie? I didn't get it.
I said it seems like Omeka is feeling stuck.
Right. So Omeka, it's like, okay, so Omeka who does create time for herself, right? And is creative. So who is she? Like what's that archetype? Or who is she that does that? And then what does she say yes to now? What does she say no to now? And I remember also, ladies, and just ladies here, when we make these new decisions based on a new archetype, it may actually feel like you are, it's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel like, oh, like, because you're not used to it yet. But the most important, and it takes courage. That's a big part of the growth, is the uncomfortableness and leaning into it and becoming that person more and more and more every day.
It almost feels like a betrayal.
Yes, exactly, Renee. That's actually the term I was looking for. Thank you. It's almost like you're betraying your old self. But at the same time, the current energetic loop is not serving. It's not. The soul is at a standstill. So when we mentally manifest, it's more like ego-based. It's more like, I want this, I want that, I want this. But you know what the soul cares about? What the soul cares about is who are you becoming? That's what the soul cares about. It's great to get whatever. Awesome, yes. Then the soul is going to be like, well, wait a minute. Who are you? Make sense?
Yeah, this is so
Yeah.
awesome, Jen. Really appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to have Binta say something. Binta work with Jen, and then have Lachelle explain about her presentation for next week, because we're almost running out of time. So go ahead, Binta.
Well, I'm just grateful because everything Jennifer is teaching here, she taught me, and we went through it together. And for me, the light bulb is growing up in a different continent and with the cultural conditioning that has been imposed on me, and all the wounds that I've been carrying. And I'm not saying I'm over them. I mean, I'm still working with them, but there's so much that she helped me to get in touch with, and to clear that emotion and that stuck emotion, and that really helped to open doors for me. And now I see myself, as a different person. I'm actually talking about those archetypes. I feel myself as I am a leader, I am a creator now, I am a mentor, and I'm leaning into those roles in my life, and so many beautiful things opening up in my life, and I'm just very grateful. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Very, very grateful to learn such things. I used to say to myself, little did I know that I was actually manifesting. I used to say to myself back home when I came here and I didn't know anything. I never went to school. I never went to, I was never in an institution to learn. So I would say to myself, I wish I could meet somebody who will teach me everything I need to know and everything. Little did I know. I used to just say that in my mind. Little did I know that I was actually, now that I knew about the subconscious mind and how it's like the earth of whatever you give it grows, I did not know that I was actually like planting seeds. And all of a sudden, things just started coming out of nowhere. One day I was working retail waitress for so long. Until one day I was on the bus and something happened, boom, and I got injured, and that was when everything stopped. And I will just like go to work and I'm in pain, and then all of a sudden one day I just said, my bosses, my company gave me an ultimatum: you either come in this day or we're gonna fire you. So I just quit. I gave them my resignation, and I left in good terms. I left in good terms, just like Jennifer said when she was leaving her job, she left in good terms. I left in good terms, and I said, okay, I'm just going to stop, because I couldn't do it anymore. And I will come home and I'll cry to my husband, and I will thank God. He was such a support. He's very supportive, and he really, really helped me to just deal with what I was going on. And this is what I was in my mind for so long, asking myself, why am I here? I asked God, I said, why did you take me from Africa to a place where I have my family members who are there going through the hardship? Why am I here? There must be a reason why you brought me here. Not to work as a maid or housekeeper or retail for the rest of my life. And then that was when I found yoga. Yoga came to found me. And that was when I started to realize who I am, that I am not separate from the universe, from the creator. And that's when I started to know who I really am. And that's when doors started to open. That was when I met Valerie, and she introduced me to the teachings of Bob Proctor. And now look, I'm working with people who work with Bob Proctor. It's amazing. It's just a dream. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That's amazing. Everybody have our story. Sometimes we put ourselves in a box with that identity. Then sometimes you have to think outside the box to do totally different than what you're doing, which is not comfortable. But Jen, this has been an amazing session. Really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Love it. And next week, Lachelle will be presenting for us. I'm going to ask Lachelle to tell us a little bit about this her presentation. The title is Awaken the Conscious Leader Within. Go ahead, Lachelle.
So this kind of goes along with what Cynthia Jean taught us last week, what Jennifer did, but this is some practical applications. And it's interesting because when I first learned about conscious leadership, I was like, that sounds really interesting, but am I a conscious leader? And the truth is, all of us are leaders, and I'm going to show you how and why, and also give you some practical things like, Omeka, I know with your mom, and and all of us have things that we have to do. It's funny, I was just writing who am I going to be having an opportunity to practice conscious leadership with today? And I have a couple of colleagues that one of them almost every day I get to have a trigger from her, but I get to learn. And so I want to teach you guys a few different things about some of the neuroscience behind where this came from, and then also some practical tools that are easy peasy and FREE, but it's time that you can take to help, and they've been really helpful for me and for my clients. So anyways, I hope you'll join us next week to help you be able to get some practical tools to help awaken the conscious leader within yourself.
Sounds good. Wow. Another amazing presentation.
Amazing.
So thank you, Lachelle. So Jen, before we close, I'm going to turn it back to you to say your closing words, and then we're going to depart here. So go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I just think this was a great interaction today. I'm very grateful to be in, connection with everyone here, and I just want to encourage everyone to, to look at, I'm the point of center, and when we're at the point of center, we can see everything 360 around us versus from looking from the outside, looking in, when we only see like a piece of the total pie, right? So, and if we really take on that responsibility, that leadership, we take our power back and we can truly change things. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, Jen, and everyone for your participation and contribution. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Have a great day, great week, great weekend. Bye, everyone. Thanks again, Jen. Bye-bye.
Welcome.